Hey, good morning. I'll start more officially in a second. For anybody who's joining me, I'm going to try something new here. I get a lot of Ask Me Anything questions, so I'm going to be answering those. I don't know if I have anybody even online, so we'll just kind of track that. But in the chat as you come on, let me know that you can hear me. So I get a lot of Ask Me Any questions. So yesterday or recently, I got a question that says, I'm in search of a course on federal market research. If you don't offer such a course, please provide me some recommendations, right? And so the question's too vague. I don't know really what you mean by federal market research. So if you can be more specific, that'll help. But the short answer to your question is I have done tons of video trainings, live trainings, 30 minutes that you can go get in our newsletter. So go to my LinkedIn profile. In there, you'll find the training list in the featured section. Look at the replays and just type the word research. And I'm be willing to bet you're going to find 10 or more that talk about how to go in and find every single possible thing about an agency. So if that's what you're talking about, I have a lot of free training out there for you. Again, just go to my the replay list in our newsletter and you'll be able to find that. Good morning, everybody. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm just kind of trying something new here where I answer Ask Me Anything questions. So somebody else, the next question I got was, I'm a Canadian citizen and wanted to know if someone with my citizen status can participate in the US market at any level or do a joint venture opportunity. So I don't really talk about joint ventures because I really think those are once you have a relationship. So let's leave it there. If you're a Canadian citizen, can you do business in the American market? Absolutely. There's foreign people from all around the world who support the United States government and what they're doing. I was just talking with DLA yesterday. That's exactly what they do is they work with a lot of locality commercial businesses. So yes, you can do that. You can also register in SAM. So you can do it as a subcontractor, support people, or you can go into SAM and register as a foreign-owned business that wants to sell to the federal government. Find a PTAC near your Canadian border and ask them, and they'll be able to give you some guidance on that. Next question I got. And for those of you just showing up, I'm doing some AMAs, Ask Me Anythings. Just trying to answer them as we get close to noon. So this last question probably, if I want to resell products and I have a tax-exempt certificate, oh yeah, this one, I'm going to move on because it was so intense. The question was about tax-exempt certificate from Florida. Do I need it from New York and Illinois and et cetera? And what I said, my answer to this question around tax-exempt was, first off, I have no idea. Like, I'm not the expert on that. But I was able to sit there and refer them to the expert who is the contracting officer. Because in the FAR, it talks about the contracting officer is the one you need to talk to on where that tax-exempt status kind of comes into play. And so although there might be a lot of other experts out there who could talk to this, I was driving this person back. If you've got a question about tax exempt and the products you sell, then go there. Okay, I'm going to pause on that. For those of you just showing up, good morning, good afternoon. Good morning to those of you out in the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here in the rainy East Coast where I'm at. I was just trying something different where I'm able to track on these questions, Ask Me Anything. So I'll talk more about it, but I'm going to start the training a little bit early each day. If I have questions that I can answer for folks, that way we can record it and other people can benefit from it. So I'm going to dive in pretty quickly. Let me just turn this off. Let me know in chat if you can hear me in the audio and all that's good to go. Cause for some reason my chat just disappeared. And I'm going to get started with today's training on getting past federal gatekeepers. This is one of my favorite topics. And so we're going to dive into that. Let me just pull up my slides so I'm able to move forward. So as we go forward, and you think about sometimes how small businesses do things and how large businesses do things, I often say, don't pretend like you're a large, red teams, yellow teams, pink teams, et cetera. If it's the same two people going after a proposal, then you don't need to think about teaming or the color things for proposals. But when it comes to sales and marketing, I do want you to think a little bit from a large perspective. Large businesses don't get stuck behind gatekeepers, right? They go into an agency, they find ways into an agency, but they don't work with a small business professional, for example, which generally, and you'll see in a second, is one of the top gatekeepers. They don't go through the gatekeepers and they don't get stuck with gatekeepers or at the gate, and neither should you. Small businesses should not get stuck at a gate, but you can't blame the other person. You can't blame the gatekeeper for why you're stuck at the gate. You need to take responsibility. And when I say take responsibility, what I mean is not blame, but responsibility. I take responsibility for whether I'm going to be stuck here at this gate with that gatekeeper or whether I'm going to take control and figure out a way to go around it. And I want you to get to this stage where you're not stuck at the gate, not stuck standing there at the gate with the gatekeeper. I do want to point out that I am going to talk pretty, firmly about gatekeepers, et cetera, today. But the reality is, some gatekeepers are what we call focuses or receptivity. They're willing to help. They'll navigate you forward. So when I talk about the problems with gatekeepers, keep in mind that there are some who are the complete opposite of that. I don't want you getting stuck at what I'm going to say later, an unhelpful gatekeeper, because helpful gatekeepers are sometimes okay. So today we're going to talk about gatekeeping. We're going to talk about the what, the why, the when, the how, right? So what are gatekeepers? I really need you to understand what they are, because how can you get past them if you don't even realize you're stuck in front of one? Why must you get past a gatekeeper? Why is it really important to not stand at the gate? And then moving forward, I want to give you some clues about how to know that you're actually standing at a gate, when you know that somebody is being a gatekeeper, an unhelpful gatekeeper. And the last one is how you can go around gatekeepers. I want to give you practical steps as we move forward about going around gatekeepers so that you can continue to have success in an agency. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's a process. When we follow a process A to Z, or research to sales, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. And that's what I want for you. Right here, I'm showing you, if you're looking at my screen, the 7-step process to federal revenue success. It's what we teach every single day about how to have success in the federal market. When you're going into an agency and you want to make sales, just follow a process and you'll have that repeatable, predictable success that you envision. If you haven't done so already, do me a favor so that David and other buyers and other people in the community can remember who you are. Put your company name in there. Put your core competency, 2 or 3 words. By the way, when somebody says that they're open to connection, that's great. And that's a willingness to be open. But also don't forget, if you're open to connections, go connect with the other person. Reach out and say, hey, Jane, I saw you in Neil's training. I'd love to connect. I saw you were open to connecting. I'd love to connect so we can just stay aware of each other. And then, continue that, engage with folks. Let me turn off this chat thing or scroll bar. Okay, let's dive into today's training by talking about what are unhelpful gatekeepers. By the way, the opposite of an unhelpful gatekeeper is David Waltz, who's in the chat today. He's from the Navy and he's a federal buyer, and you'll probably see him tell you what he is looking for his agency, et cetera. So he's a small business professional. Even though I'm about to rip into some small business professionals, there's a lot like him that are not them. So here's my ways of defining a person as a gatekeeper, an unhelpful gatekeeper, or knowing that you're at a gate. So unhelpful gatekeepers are ones that just won't make any introductions. They won't tell you what's needed in order for them to make an introduction. There's David's colleague, Matt, out in Naval Surface Warfare Center, Crane, was once working with somebody from our community. And he said, well, you're not ready to go talk to the CTO. I'm happy to make the introduction. But if you do this, I'll be happy to do that for you. I just don't want to get you in front of the CTO and then have you kind of burn that one opportunity or turn it into a single opportunity to talk to the CTO instead of continuously. So you want somebody to be giving you those tips. The second thing that makes somebody unhelpful to me, and especially small business professionals in the federal government, when you reach out to them and they're like, you just need to watch SAM and you'll see what's going on. Yes. Have you ever heard the phrase, if you saw it in SAM, it's too late? Now, I don't actually believe everything in SAM is too late, right? I'm not at that level. But the reality is, if the government person is telling me just watch SAM, what they're basically saying is wait until it's too late and then kind of contact us. And they might be referring to sources sought, RFIs, but we talk about in the sales lifecycle shifting left. That gatekeeper is trying to shift you right. The next one, they don't seek first to understand. This is a big one. It drives me nuts where you reach out to somebody in the government. In this particular case, for us small businesses, it's usually the small business pro. And all they do is say the same thing to every single person. I watched one of my customers. They're doing at least 30 million, getting ready to graduate large. They got 100 plus single opportunity, 100 plus million. And they reached out to talk to somebody in an agency where they were already doing business. And that person took them all the way back and said, well, you need to read this document that says how to do business with our agency and some other stuff. And it's like, You're killing me. You're not seeking first to understand who I am. I don't mean you have to understand what I sell, but could you at least first understand that I'm registered in the supplier portal, that I've been doing business for 5 years with you, or whatever. And so that's a sign to me of an unhelpful gatekeeper. And I want you to keep this in mind when they just tell you stuff, but you feel like you could step away and put somebody else in there and they'd be saying the exact same thing. And the last gatekeeper, I'm pulling this away from the small business professionals. And now number 4 here, or bullet 4, putting this into the program office. An unhelpful gatekeeper to me is somebody who they just use a demo version of your product. They're like, hey, can I get a demonstration version of your product and install it, whatever. And then they use it forever. Hey, can you give us a little extension? We're still trying to evaluate it or something. That's really dangerous gate for folks. And it's a dangerous gatekeeper because you think you have traction. But what's happening is weeks and months are going by. I've seen people in there for a year with a demo product, and it's just, first off, it's wrong. But second off, it's just completely destructive to your chances on making any kind of sale, because what do they need the sale for? They're moving forward. Sales is about aligning a problem to a solution, not just throwing a solution in and letting them play with it all the time. Okay, so two most common unhelpful gatekeepers that I was talking about here are small business professionals, right? And they just tend to be a gate sometimes. And I put here, some are great, right? I know that there are some gatekeepers that are, or small business professionals that are great. But a lot of times when small businesses are hitting a gate at an agency and they can't go anywhere, 80% of the time, I would say it's a small business professional in there. And you need to recognize this, and you cannot blame them. When you blame them, you give up control. When you take responsibility and say, hey, I'm responsible for why I'm stuck here with Jane at this gate, then you have control to go somewhere else, which I'm going to teach you about today. And then the other common one I just mentioned is the king or queen of demos or white papers, the ones who keep saying, hey, can you write another white paper? Can you write another white paper? It's like, how much information do you need from me? Okay, so let's talk about really quickly why you must go past gatekeepers. And I hope these are obvious, right? But I just like stating so that we're all kind of on the same page. One of the biggest reasons is you just need to continue the sale, right? You always need to be moving forward. I think I might say this later about in sales, there's this great line in transactional sales, consumer sales, that says always be closing. Well, in the federal market, we don't always be closing. In fact, we never be closing. That's what the proposal's for. And even then, it's not really closing. It's a suggestive close. What we should be doing is always moving forward. And so when you get past the gatekeeper, you're able to continue the sale. You're able to move it forward. When you get past the gatekeeper, whoever that might be, and you get to the contracting shop, for example, you can shape the acquisition approach. You can have conversations about the value of going with this vehicle instead of this vehicle. It enables you to have much more competition, whatever. It enables you to streamline your acquisition. You can influence the set-aside direction, right? You can push it towards an 8A direct award. You can push it towards an 8A competitive 8A. You just push it for a total small business. When you get in there and have the conversation, you have the chance to sit there and influence it. When you're stuck at a gate, you can't shape the acquisition at all. And when I say shape, by the way, you don't force the government to do anything, but your data, your evidence, your argument sways the buyer in the direction that you want, which is that next bullet, getting to the actual buyer. This is why you want to get past gatekeepers, so that you can get in and talk to that program office. In here, I put some ideas, and one is put ideas into the program shop's head, like they collectively have a head. If you've ever watched my training about the acquisition lifecycle aligned with the sales lifecycle, we want to shift left all the way to the point where they're having a requirement, generating a requirement saying we want to do this. And at that point, you can even introduce ideas where they go, I hadn't even thought of that. I know, that's why I'm here. An example of an idea that maybe they haven't thought about is like, how can I improve my elevator maintenance costs using artificial intelligence and emerging technology? How many elevator companies do you think are talking about AI right now? That's all in the IT world, right? And so putting that idea into the program office, or the facility management office's head, is a way to influence things that are going on. When you get into the actual buyer and you get past the gatekeeper, you're able to hear about RFIs or sources. You're able to hear about everything much earlier. No kind of bad, unethical things. They just say, hey, keep your eyes open. An RFI is coming out. It's like, oh, cool. But think about it. if you go back to that gatekeeper who told us just watch SAM, it's like, well, we would see the sources saw it. We would see the RFI if we're, really watching it heavily. By the way, for the government, like right now, there's probably 1,000 open RFIs in there. It's hard to watch all that. But putting it back on you, the small business, yes, you could look in SAM, but if you have these relationships, if you get past gatekeepers and have conversations with the program office, then you're able to hear about RFIs. We're trying to write an RFI now that we're going to get out. It might take them a month or two. And if you know about it, you can start having conversations with them. You can start thinking about how you're going to respond, and you can move at it much faster than if you heard about it in SAM. Same thing with some of these other things I put down, right? You can shape the technical requirements and the scope just by getting them to think about certain things. Hey, don't go chat GPT, go, whatever the alternative is, getting them to think about some of these different things. Learning about challenges and goals. When you're stuck at a gatekeeper and then you're going to go to SAM and maybe write an RFI response or an RFP response, we haven't had a chance to have any discussions with that program office about their challenges, not just what's in the PWS or something, but overall, what are you guys running into? Is things hectic? Is cyber really impacting construction? Like, are you really up in air about it? What are some of your goals and challenges? I just put out a post today on LinkedIn, and it's the Information Technology Strategic Plan for OPM. And in there, one of my favorite pages is where they explain what is a goal, what is an objective, what's an activity, and they talk about that and what that means to their agency before later on they start laying out their goals and objectives. Well, you can't hear about many of that. You certainly can't have conversations unless you can get to the buyer. In order to get to the buyer, you got to get past the gatekeeper. Okay, so that's the why of it. Here is just another way of thinking about the gatekeeper. I talked about when you should be going around the gatekeeper. And earlier I said, always be moving forward, right? Don't always be closing. That's not our sales, but always be moving forward. If you're not moving forward, then there's a really good chance you're stuck at a gate. You need to go around that gate. I said the gatekeeper often is a small business professional. But you can have gatekeepers at all sorts of angles. It doesn't matter where it's at. And I'll show you towards the end how many other doors you can go in other than that one gate you're stuck at. Sometimes you might be stuck at a program office gate. They just don't want to talk to you. It's like, okay, don't give up. Just go in a different door. Another reason you want to, when you should go around a gatekeeper, when you realize you're at a gatekeeper and you should go around, it's the minute they stop doing anything new for you. They don't have phone calls with you anymore, or they're kind of, we call it sounding like a whale. I don't know if you've ever heard this. In sales, we call it sounding when you got a whale of a customer and then they go down. I don't know if you know that whales go down. They take a big breath and they go way, way down deep in the ocean. They're down there for a while and you're like, where's that whale? There's a huge, big old whale here. And then it's gone. And then it comes back up, right? And as it comes up, you see it. But that sounding is tough on us and we need to be always moving forward. And if the whale, the customer goes down, that's hard. Another sign that you should be moving around those gatekeepers is when they don't share information. When you talk to somebody, and just sticking with a small business pro for a moment, they just talk about how to do business. They're like, hey, here's our top NAICS or some stuff. And it's like, all that information's on the web. Like we can get all that nowadays ourselves. What are you giving me that I can't have? What are you telling me about the program office? When they stop sharing information, when they won't help you go find a document, things like that, then that's a gatekeeper you need to go around. Doesn't mean they're bad. It just means you're not getting anything. You need to move around them. And then the last example I had here about when you should be going around is when they're not making introductions. I see this a lot where, again, in particular, it's a small business professional who is not making introductions further into the agency. You were a block to me. And going back to the opening of today's training, I said larges never have that problem. Larges always go through many doors, and I'll show you in a second. But we smalls sometimes go right up against the gate. And I swear there's bells and whistles and signs and everything that says gatekeeper, we're going to block you. And we still go up against them, right? You'll see me. I talk about small business professionals that I love. I think they're awesome. And I keep trying to push people their way. That's why certain agencies get me referring industry there, and other agencies, I'm like, stay away from them. They're just... I know they got money, but they're tough to deal with. Why go that direction? Why go where somebody is just defining themselves as an unhelpful gatekeeper, not a gatekeeper telling you what you need to do in order to come in successfully to their agency and then helping you get to the next stage. Like, hey, let me introduce you to the program office. So those are just some examples of when you should move around that gate. Before I move on, I just wanted to quickly pause for a second, let you know that we've got website, a ton of information out there. You can find it. By the way, this video right here on the homepage is when I was on television talking about the HubZone program and really pushing it forward. It was awesome to be able to talk about that. I plan on doing the same thing with the Women-Owned Small Business Program and the 8A program, is to really help push us out there. But what I wanted to point out is if you haven't downloaded our directories yet, go to the resource tab. These directories are free. There's 3 of them. You can figure out what they are. But today's highlight one is the supplier portal. Many Navy and other agencies have their own, Navy commands and other agencies have their own supplier portal. So you have DSPS, and then you have an actual command or an agency's portal, as well as large prime contractors. And so in there, you'll find over 100 supplier portal links. Just click on it and go register. In August, or excuse me, I guess we're in August, so forget about that. In September, we're probably going to try to be nice and reorder them, not alphabetical, but on how easy they are or how little time it takes to get registered. Some, like Boeing and General Electric or something, take a while. And others, it's like, hey, send us an email and you're on our list. And so we want to put it in that order for you. By the way, we're doing this Ask Me Anything. If you've got questions and you're not finding the answer out there, and you've tried your PTAC and you've tried Google, then ping us, right? And what I'm going to do, sometimes I'll respond on email, but I'm going to start responding to them just at the start of these trainings so that everybody can benefit from that. Okay, so this is my house. No, it is a nice house, though. I don't think I would mind living there. I don't like the hills on the grass. I like flat grass. But anyways, this house represents an agency, right? Think about a federal agency. It's a really big agency. And what I'm trying to emphasize here is that when you get stuck at a gate, the gatekeeper, it's in one place. This front door, we all know we need to go up. We knock on it. Ironically, we walk right past a sign that says no soliciting. And so we knock on the door and we try to get there. And there's a gatekeeper holding the door open. The chain's still on the door and they're looking out. They're talking to us. And they're like, well, who are you? What are you coming here for? I'm like, come on, I'm just knocking on the door. What I want you to understand is that that's not the only door to get into that agency. That's not the only door to get into this mansion, right? Right above it, you see 3 windows. Just hop up on the roof there and climb in the windows. Go around over here. There's a door here, and you can see another door in the back. There's a couple of windows down there. If you come on the side of the house, there's all these windows. There's the garage, which is built under the house. So if you can get in there, you can come up into the house. I don't mean illegally. I just mean there's a bunch of other people at all these doors and windows. When you go to these other doors and windows, they might be friendlier. They might let you in. They might share the information you're looking for. They might make introductions, right? It's not about breaking and entering, right? You can come up on top, right? You can parachute down and come through the chimney like Santa Claus. Whatever it is, there's many, many different ways into this agency. This mansion represents the agency. Don't get stuck at the gate. When you get stuck at a gate, like I said, you'll know it because nothing will be happening. And the minute that happens, the minute you go a day or a week and really nothing has happened in forward momentum, forward progress on your sales activity, just go find some other place. Don't yell at the person at the door. Just go around to other places. So let me talk about some of those doors specifically. I did a whole training on this particular slide and this group of people. So you can go watch previous training. If you're lucky, somebody on my team will throw it into the chat. If they do, say thank you. But here, what I wanted to talk about is that when we look at a gatekeeper, just think about a small business professional for one moment. When we think of that, that's just one person, one entry point into an agency. I mentioned the Department of Navy, right? And I was talking about how David, who's in our chat, is a great guy. The Department of Navy has 150 plus. No, wait, I think NAVC has 150 plus. It could be NAVC, and David, you just tell me. Either NAVC or the Navy has 150 small business professionals. We haven't even gone out to the rest of the people. The sheer amount of people that are in the Navy for you to be able to find other alternatives to get into the Navy is huge. And here, I want to walk through. So agency, let's just start in the middle, right? The agency, what I put was focus and receptivity. Let's start with the small business professionals and say they're there. If you're trying to get into the Navy, even if you're trying to get into NAVC, you can go over to NavAir and say, hey, Sally, do you know anybody over in NAVC that's not John? Because I keep trying John, and that door is closed to me. And she might go, oh, yeah, I work with this person. Ping them and tell them I said to call or something. So more focus is a receptivity. If you haven't downloaded our directory, by the way, of small business professionals, that has over 1,000 small business professionals, names, numbers, and emails, so that you get an early start on reaching out. But then focus is a dissatisfaction. Focus is a power. I was just talking with somebody today. Tracy submitted an AMA question, and her question was about how to do some research on FPDS. We were talking about tools, FPDS, USA Spending, SAM.gov You, and where we might find data. And one of the things that her Ask Me Anything question reminded me of is a training I recently did saying, how do you find contracting officers that love 8A firms? And so right here, you see where I have agency FP. That stands for Focus of Power. That stands for Contracting Officer. Well, you can go into FPDS and pull up items that you wish you won. And when you click on the item to view it in FPDS, you will see it in the top right-hand corner. If what I just described is foreign to you, you need to understand that FPDS is as important as email and Google. If you know how to search for a plumber in Google, you need to know how to search for a contracting officer in FPDS, right? And it doesn't mean everything you need is going to be there. You're going to go back to Google and do some more research. But you can find the names, numbers, and emails of Focus is a Power, Focus is a Dissatisfaction. That's the program office. You can find them, and those can be ways to get in the door. And then I talked about supplier partners down below. If I think about HHS, I can go to HHS, and it has a supplier portal. In that supplier portal, they allow me to look to see who's doing business in there and get point of contact information, right? So I'm able to find more people to be able to get in. Let me come over to the left. I just want to come back out for 1 second as I work my way over on different people who can help you get into an agency. So imagine you're trying to get into an agency, you're stuck on the at the gatekeeper, right? You're stuck there and you need to go around. These 20 things or so are different ways you can go around. By the way, below Hub Zone is 8A. So for anybody who's, can't see because my face is there. I wonder if I can move this. No, turns out no. I shouldn't play with things live. Anyways, underneath my face is 8A. So that's what that box is. But if we come over to the left-hand side, you see where it says PTACs, right? They're called Apex accelerators now, but PTACs are awesome, right? These guys have ties to agencies. So you could go there, talk to them. Who do you know who's in there that you might be able to help me get access to? Contracting officer. They might know program office people. Lee Christensen's down in Huntsville, Alabama, running the Catalyst Center. If I went and talked to her, she could help me get into the Missile Defense Agency, not just through small business professionals, not just through contracting officers, but through program office people who have come and joined her events that she's hosted. And she probably knows industry folks who are also in there. And she said, oh, you got to talk to this company, ABC. They're in there. So you can talk. And I looped her into PTACs, right? But she's also her organization is also a Woman Business Center, a Veteran Business Outreach Center, Small Business Development Center, and SCORE. I just put 5 groups down here. These are 5 of the people I describe as the 7 to 12 mentors every small business must have. Each one of these people, you don't go in and just take, right? But as you have a relationship with them, they'll be able to sit there and make introductions. You can bypass a gatekeeper, or more importantly, or not more importantly, alternatively, you might actually get somebody like a PTAC. Let me just stick with Lee for a second, who knows Jane, who's kind of being a gatekeeper to you. You could say, hey, Lee, you got any tips? Can the 3 of us get on a call and we figure out how do I move past Jane? Sometimes gatekeepers are just gatekeepers accidentally, and they just need a little, help to go, oh, yeah, let me move you forward. And I mean, literally, I'm the same way sometimes. I might not get back to you, but if you come back, I'll go, oh, yeah, sorry I didn't get back to you. Let me move that thing forward for you. For example, the RGA, the requirements gap analysis that I'm trying to get in the sustaining membership program. I was supposed to do it Monday and it's Friday. I'm like, but I'll get it done. Okay, so the other group of people you want to be tracking is industry, right? 2 big industry groups. So over here, I've got large primes. Large primes, go watch my training. There's focuses of receptivity, dissatisfaction, and power there. But most importantly, you can find 100 people at a large prime that are all related to a particular agency you want to get into. And as you slowly build relationships, as you get good at reaching out to people and asking for help, giving help, you'll be able to sit there and find somebody who might be able to get you into that agency. And then over on the right-hand side, it's that same kind of thing, right? On the right-hand side, you've got these small businesses that are either total small, no certification, or one of the small business program stats. you can reach out to them. You identify through FPDS, again, the ones that are in the agency you want to go into, and you can reach out to them and say, hey, I'm trying to get in the program office. Do you know anybody? Can you make an introduction? Can you give me some guidance? Whatever it is. This is all about relationship building, right? When you're trying to get past a gatekeeper, you're trying to use relationships that you have out there. Another group of people. So I talked about agency groups, these volunteer type organizations, even though they get paid, right? I talked about agencies, volunteers, industry. And the last one I want to talk about here is SBA. The SBA has a huge responsibility to help small businesses. They can't do everything for us, but if you're hitting a wall trying to get into an agency, they might be able to help. If you're an 8A, for sure, your business opportunity specialist can help push the ball forward a little bit. But inside the district office, you'll find folks, including procurement center representative. Procurement center representative works with contracting officers in their assigned agencies. And so they have these relationships with small business professionals, with agency folks, even sometimes the program office, depending on how big the activity is. And so you want to be able to build relationships with them. I've talked about this before. When you're building your company, you need to have relationships and then grow. Don't try to go out and grow and just reach out to me and ask me for something without having participated, even like a thumbs up or something. It's like, oh, I know who you are. Well, these people, it's the same thing. You want to engage with them and then be able to ask them for something when you need it. We call that digging your well before you're thirsty. All right, so I'm running out of time. I want to make sure I end Friday on time, 12:30. Here's what I want you to remember as you go forward. By the way, if you want this as a handout, certainly for the sustaining members, it's in the sustaining membership. For anybody else, I have this as a handout. I'm happy to send it. For those of you who are requesting it live, I'm going to make it that restriction because live means you're here engaging with community, and I really appreciate that. So remember that larges aren't getting stopped, so don't let yourself get stopped, right? If you're stuck, just do some of those things I showed you about getting around through the mansion, go in through the chimney or through different windows, those people I suggested on that handout I was just talking about. Come back next week. We got live training all next week. If you get value from our training, become a sustaining member today. We're not funded by the government. We're pretty much funded by me, and sustaining members help going forward, right? My team has been doing this for 5 years. It's our pleasure and our honor to do it. But when you're ready, consider supporting us. And for everybody, as you go into the weekend, I really want you to remember government contracting and having fun is not a secret. They're both just processes. I'll see you in the next training.